And welcome to Frame.io Live. My name is Sean McDaniel, and this show is where we talk creativity and where it meets technology. This is where we talk to guests, either editors, producers, directors, or anyone in the creative industry, and we share their process and workflows with you in this live environment. But before we get started, I love to always ask where everyone's from, kind of engage your audience a little bit, because this is a great way for audience members to take a look at our Q&A box. Drop in your questions, but tell us where you're coming in from. We're broadcasting from Hollywood, California. Again, it's a little bit of a cloudy day. We've had a few sunshiny days, but it's been a little hot. But today it's been nice, cool morning. So if anybody's from LA, I'm hoping we're enjoying a little bit of the coolness right now in the morning. But we already got some folks kind of chiming in. We've got one from Vegas, my hometown. What's up? Hello, hello. We got Pittsburgh. We got NYC in here. We got some Vancouver. And we're getting some more folks kind of popping in. Throw on where you're coming from. We've got a really good show for you today. We're really excited to talk to our folks at Red Bull. And we got some fun camera to cloud stuff to talk to you about as well. Now, if you do have questions, please throw those in. I'm sure some things will kind of spark as we go along. But, this is a really great way to point out that Q&A box, because we want to queue some questions up towards the end. We may actually pop some in and out of the middle as well as we go along our session. But a few more folks here. We've got Virginia. We've got Minneapolis. What's up? We got Finland. Hello. We've got Germany. Love it. And hopefully a few more folks coming in. And if you have any Red Bull fans in the group, personally, me, I'm a sugar-free Red Bull drinker. I don't know if I can do too much of the regular Red Bull. It gets me kind of wired. Coffee, I think, will do it. But the sugar-free Red Bull is probably one of my favorites. And I know they got a lot of other flavors as well. So if you got a favorite Red Bull flavor, the color, the taste palette that you're into, throw it in the chat. I want to hear about it as well. A few more folks popping into. We've got Munich. I was in Munich just last year, and I had such an incredible time. Enjoyed a little Oktoberfest. Had some brats, had a little sauerkraut. It was absolutely delicious. So yes, Munich is a happy place for me. We got some Connecticut. We got some Scottsdale. We got a good group in here. I'm loving this. So I think we should probably just go ahead and get started. Like I said, we've got a great show for you today. Throw in those questions. We're going to queue them up towards the end. We've got some folks on the sidelines that'll be able to answer those questions for you via text. But in the meantime, we're going to queue them up to have some questions at the end. So today's world of production is moving quicker than ever, whether you work in live events or sports or branding or a run and gun of a production team. Time has always been money, and capturing that defining moment happens in a matter of seconds. Now, the use of cutting edge workflows from capture to delivery in record time is crucial to meeting this demand. And this is where Camera to Cloud comes in. It's an ecosystem of integrations that allow your assets to be uploaded fast and reliably. And if you want to know more about Camera to Cloud, head to our website, frame.io/C2C, and you're going to get all the information that you need on Camera to Cloud. We're obviously going to talk a little bit about more today because we are talking with the Red Bull Media House. So like many of athletes that they sponsor, they are fearless when it comes to taking calculated risks with the technology and workflows that they employ. Specifically, the Frame.io Camera to Cloud workflow has really helped the Red Bull Media House deliver footage from events like the FIM Hard Enduro World Championship races to the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series and any extreme and stunning locations in between. If you know Red Bull, you know that they definitely go to the major extremes from planes to people making their own little carts and ride them over cliffs and into the water and racing. They are high adrenaline. Now, to give you an idea of just how extreme we're talking about, let's take a look at this trailer from the Red Bull Media House.
Yo, that was sick.
Hell yeah.
how we do it, baby.
I don't know about you, but I just ordered my dirt bike and I'm taking cliff diving lessons right now. So we'll see you on the next show, and I'll show you my jumps and all the cool stuff that I can do. What amazing high octane video! So this leads us right into our guest, Dennis Wiehberg, who is a senior project manager of innovation at the Red Bull Media House. I am so excited to have Dennis on the show today. Dennis, how are you? So good to see you. Love the neon in the background, by the way.
Thank you. Great to be here, Sean.
Yeah. So once again, thank you for joining. And again, questions, let's prime those up because we've got a discussion to begin. Let's start our discussion. So, Dennis, I do want to start off a little bit about your background, but I do want to ask, you and I bumped into each other along with the rest of the Frame team that were at the Sphere in Vegas. How was your experience at the Sphere in Vegas? I have to know because we didn't get a chance to talk afterwards.
Officially, it was great, but obviously, when everybody comes together for NAB, you have all pixel heads in one place. Yeah, a few things that were not right to our eyes, but overall, we enjoyed it. It was great.
That's awesome. Well, so glad to have bumped into you and finally and actually meet you in person. But yeah, let's jump into the Red Bull Media House. So, how long have you been at Red Bull? Let's talk a little bit about your background and how you got to this point.
So yeah, I'm from Berlin, Germany, originally. I spent my years in university in Washington, D.C. at Howard University. I went to school for audio engineering there, and then moved back for a little bit, back to Berlin, to my hometown, before joining Red Bull in 2011. So I've been there for, just over 13 years now. Started as an ingest and playout tech, get the chance to actually work on production during that time, and then transitioning to a role in production engineering before actually getting to lead that team. And then another transition got me to my current position. So I get to do innovation in production technology full time now since October last year. So that was a great move, great gig so far.
It's an amazing jump from going to be a sound engineering to running a full blown media house. How does it feel to kind of make that transition over? Do you miss kind of the audio days, or do you incorporate a lot of that into your current workload now?
So I guess audio is always a part of what we do. So I still enjoy that aspect of the job, always. But I like to go over to our audio post-production department, and just hang out in the audio suites there sometimes and listen to some sound design, some mixes. So awesome.
So how many people are on the Red Bull Media House team?
So Red Bull Media House employs around 1,100 people. And if we're talking production teams, that can range from 5 people to 200 people, depending the kind and the size of that production.
Now, when did Red Bull actually start taking advantage of Frame.io? How did that come into play with all of your workflows?
So yeah, I guess the pandemic again was something that kind of acted as a catalyst for us evaluating solutions like Frame. So we started that in 2020, and then kind of fully rolled that out on the FIM Hard Enduro World Championship that you mentioned earlier in 2021.
Wow, amazing. Just taking a look at these images here, and obviously watching the sizzle reel there. What's probably some of the craziest events you've ever been a part of or seen? Red Bull's known to kind of push the limits of the what a human can endure. What's the craziest thing you've actually seen in person that Red Bull's put on?
So if we go back to that trailer that you played, the guy that was on fire, I was actually on that shoot. So I actually got to see them lighting a b-boy, a break dancer on fire. So that was pretty crazy. With fire department present, obviously, calculated risks. You said that as well. But yeah, it's, you get to visit great locations around the globe working. This is like the best thing that I experienced actually was a hard enduro production that we had in Lesotho. So in Southern Africa. That's going to be, memories for a lifetime.
Now, are you kind of an adrenaline junkie yourself? Do you find yourself kind of jumping on a dirt bike, or jumping off one of these cliff diving things? Have you had any urge, or are you kind of a daredevil yourself?
No, I'm fine with just covering that stuff.
All right, no worries. Well, I understand that, obviously when you guys incorporated Frame.io during the pandemic, everyone kind of had to work remotely. And the really nice thing about Camera to Cloud is it kind of brings everyone together, even though they're kind of separated and kind of apart. But when did you start using the Camera to Cloud workflow? And what event was that kind of centered around?
So we first tested Cam to Cloud in a production environment at a hard enduro race that was actually near Bilbao in Spain. So we basically just outfitted cameras and camera guys with Teradek cubes. It was back then for us, and mobile hotspots, single SIM back then. And just that is the exact event right there. So basically, you had a couple of mountain ranges, and camera guys, usually lightweight equipment, running through those mountains, making it from one camera position to the other, but then also transmitting proxies while out there. So we can actually see what they do out in the field pretty much instantly, or whenever they actually hit a pocket of connectivity. That's another thing there. So yeah, that was the first time. And then we also, here's Marco, our camera guy that is actually on Red Bull cliff diving. Then we kind of rolled that out as a solution for news contribution on the Red Bull cliff diving World Series.
Very cool. Now, we talked about the hard enduro race a couple times. What exactly is the race, and what is it? What is the race itself, and where does it normally take place?
So it is a global race series. We usually have 7 to 8 tour stops or event stops a year. Those can be between a long weekend, so 2 to 3 days, to full-fledged rally race formats that last up to 5 or 6 days. And it's basically it's in some spots it's more pushing a dirt bike than it is actually riding a dirt bike. So imagine hills and inclines that you have trouble walking up, and then just getting up there with a bike. So yeah, that is basically, I guess, hard enduro in a nutshell. I hope you can get an idea there.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't want to do it personally, but I'd love to watch it though. So, in order to kind of cover these events, how many different cameras do you kind of use, and what types, do you kind of do in one, event, or one, local location? How many different cameras and whatnot?
So all the camera equipment is kind of centrally organized and gets shipped by us. For that series, we usually stick to the Sony family of cameras. So we have FX9s, FX6s, FX3s. So everything is pretty lightweight and basically customized in terms of kit and rigging by us. So it actually makes sense to take out in the field. We do have a couple of Ronin 4Ds out on that series. But also use the usual drones that you can see out there. So yeah, that is basically the camera setup that we have there.
Got it. Now, we mentioned a couple times that the team's very spread out. So where are a lot of your editors kind of located throughout the world?
So for hard enduro, we keep the editors in Salzburg. Actually, they usually sit about 5 meters away from me in that direction. So we have like kind of like a, let's call it a common space or collaborative space that we set up for them to edit. So just as if they were on production, just in a much more controllable environment. For cliff diving, for example, we have an editor on location. We have editors in Salzburg. The news crew is editing from Munich. So in some instances, it's also quite spread out.
So what has using Frame.io kind of unlocked for your team since using camera to cloud? I mean, it's been a couple years since COVID. What do you feel you've discovered in this process?
So I think the thing that we always stress when we talk about this is that time is of the essence, right? And usually back in the day, we would go out in production, everyone would be on location. You would lose about 2 days traveling, depending on where you are. But those travel days kind of have become productive days. The editors actually get to spend that time in the timeline or on creative processes. So we basically are able to deliver higher quality product in the same time frame, or even in some cases are able to move a deadline for delivery up.
Now, approximately how much data would you upload on average?
So far, Enduro, we're talking about 1 to 3 terabytes a day. So that is OCF, Ultra HD, and yeah, it kind of varies on what we actually have to shoot on certain days. B-roll days or interview days are usually less footage heavy. When you have prologues or race formats that basically take riders around in a circle or multiple laps, then obviously you will produce a bit more footage just because you have to cover everything. You never know when everything is going to happen. So there we're talking about those 3, maybe 4 terabytes even.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned there were proxies earlier. So do you use your camera to cloud proxy dailies for like your initial cut, or what's kind of the post workflow? Like, do you upload your OCF media along with your C2C dailies, and do you work off those C2C dailies? Like, talk to me a little bit about that process.
Yeah. So a couple of different scenarios again, right? So first of all, especially when we're talking about interviews,
Mhm.
C2C proxies help producers and editors to already figure out what's coming, to identify story points, right? And to basically get a glimpse into the future, so to speak, or the actual near present. And then in other cases, we're transmitting C2C proxies so people can actually start editing with that and then basically relink to OCF later. And in, even other, like when we talk in news contribution, the quality of the proxies is actually good enough to use that for distribution. So if we have news interviews that are basically cam to cloud proxies or high quality proxies, then we can actually work those into the final cut or final news cut and actually distribute that footage.
So typically how many assets and what kind of assets do you actually output? And how has this changed since before camera to cloud came into your workflow?
I mean, the number of assets has stayed relatively the same over the years. It's just the speed of producing those assets has become much quicker. So we're talking for large scale events, we're talking about 50 to 60 assets per production. That doesn't include textless or clean versions for archive yet, but basically every product that is being produced on location for, you name it, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, everything.
So one of the big questions that always kind of pops up with camera to cloud is internet connectivity, and obviously if you're all over the world, internet's not always available. So how did you overcome this? What modems did you use? I'd love to learn a little bit more about your process there.
So we recently switched to multi-SIM cellular modems. So that is basically what we give out right now. They're battery powered. They're quite easy to handle. That is another point. It's like you don't always have a tech person on location or with the camera people. So stuff like that needs to be rugged. It needs to be easy to operate. But that, just like anything else in technology, is an ongoing process, right? So currently we're evaluating different or other router options that will give us even better bandwidths in those pockets of connectivity. Satellite internet is an option as well. So if you see it from a budget perspective, you would probably start with a SIM card that you have in your phone, and then maybe even use later on Starlink systems if that's in your budget, or if you have access to those, and anything in between.
So if you were able to sum up what Frame.io and Camera to Cloud has done for the Red Bull Media House, and obviously with your workflows, what would you say in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, everything's become quicker. And also, our creative minds actually get to spend more time on being creative. And that was the important thing for us.
Well, amazing. I appreciate you kind of sharing your insight and your workflow. We do want to bring you back for Q&A, but I do want to talk a little bit about this new exciting update we have for Camera to Cloud, and that's called real-time logging. And sometimes you'll hear it be called RTL for short. And Red Bull got to use this new feature, so I would love to bring out the team lead for C2C, Derek Schweikart, who's going to be able to show off this new feature and give us more insight on how it works. Hi, Derek. How are you, buddy?
Hey, buddy. Hey, Sean. Thanks for having me on. I'm honored to be on Frame.io Live. This is really exciting.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. Now, before we start, Derek, I do want to throw it out to the audience. We do want to get some questions in. Please throw those in now, as we're going to queue them up for the end, because we'll get Derek and Dennis back on, and we can talk a little bit more about their workflow and process. But yeah, I just want to throw that to the audience. So, Derek, I'd love to hear your, you have some talking points on Camera to Cloud, and I think the audience wants to know a little bit about RTL.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean, for having me. We're really excited to launch real-time logging as a feature of Frame.io Camera to Cloud. This is going to be available today in our version 3 of the platform. But just a little bit, of context for this. I'm the team lead for Camera to Cloud. We launched this in 2021. I've been with Frame and Adobe since that time, and we've always imagined Camera to Cloud being this ecosystem that can bring multiple different tools together, like not only cameras. And we're excited that real-time logging through our partnership with Ambient is enabling a brand new way of working that we think is really going to excite people. So effectively, what real-time logging is the ability to connect these Ambient Nano Locket devices to your Frame.io project, and then they are timecode clocks. Right, so Ambient is really an industry leader in accurate time code. You may have some of these kits already in your possession if you're a production person. I know that Dennis did at Red Bull. And the idea here is that as you're pushing these buttons, you are going to be able to put marks onto your clips that are uploaded via Camera to Cloud. Right, so we found, here we go, that's a great picture of it. So Ambient creates a whole ecosystem of devices, and when we met with them and we started talking about connecting these to Frame.io, it became clear to us that we had an opportunity to bring the collaborative tools that Frame.io is so well known for to the onset experience, when you can make those marks without even touching your phone or a computer. Like, as soon as you see something and have that thought, you can capture that impression. So it's both this kind of idea of this creative tool, where as a creative, I want to know, like, I like this, I didn't like this, or it's an efficiency tool to saying, like, you're doing a long recording of, let's say, a sporting event, a music concert, or even a long interview, and you're capturing those moments so you can cut through the chatter in between takes, or you have a lot of stuff that's not so important. So Frame.io Camera to Cloud real-time logging gives you this, like, timecode accurate heat map for your editor to start to work with, that allows you to communicate your intentions even clearer as a creative, as a producer, as a director. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. I'd love to maybe give you guys a demo of it, and Sean, if you'll be my guinea pig, can I interview you for a second here? How is that?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go ahead and start the demo. All right, you're gonna have to guide me here, Derek. You gotta tell me what to do.
Okay, so what you're seeing here for me, I'm sitting here as the director, right? And where this is like an interview setup, I have my Fujifilm X-H2S camera here that is connected via Camera to Cloud. Okay. And I have it pointed at my screen, and I'm seeing Sean here. So let me just make sure that I've got Sean in the frame. And we're just gonna do there we go. Looking good there, buddy.
Get my good
All
sound.
Right, so we're gonna make this kind of quick. Help the upload go fast. So I'm going to start recording. And Sean, tell me a little bit about your morning.
Oh, my morning was pretty good. I woke up, I came here to the office, had a nice cup of coffee, had a little Fig Newton bar, the little nuggets you like to have a little sip of coffee and take a little bite of a Fig Newton, just kind of swirl it in your mouth uh, and finish it all, which I kind of regret because now my sugar high is kind of going away. So
On that note, with your coffee, do you take cream or sugar?
I'm just a half and half guy. I don't do sugar in my coffee.
Nice. I'm going to ask you to do one more thing for me. Can you
Okay,
please lean into for a close up here? I really want to
sure.
get a nice close up of you.
It's
Okay,
probably
so
out of
there's a
focus,
close
but
up.
I
That's
could
okay.
do.
And then why don't you give me a nice profile shot here? Like, let's get a profile shot of you. There you go. Thank you. Very nice. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm going to cut there. So the idea, is I'm, looking for certain things as a creative, right? So my first take there, I was marking. These are new questions. Here's a follow up question. I'm going to
Okay.
show you this in a little bit more detail right now. Let me switch over to my Frame.io project. So notice we're in the Frame.io ecosystem here, and I have my Ambient Locket Plus and my Fujifilm as devices in my C2C Connections tab. So the ambient locket is actually also connected to two nano lockets. So to clarify, the Locket Plus is a device that actually creates the timecode network and connects to the internet. The nanos are small devices that you hold in your hand that you mark with buttons. Now I can go in here and choose edit logging buttons, and I'm going to show that. This is loading for 1 second. I can say who the comments are from,
Mhm.
what devices I'm applying it to, and I set the comments ahead of time. So this is going to be a follow-up question, this button. This is new question. And these other boxes, let's say this is from Charlie, who's my colleague. And he's going to do a profile and close-up because he's the DP and he's looking for specific camera angles, right? Now, with Camera to Cloud, all of this is really helping to automate your workflows. It's really set it and forget it, right? These cameras, once the files get recorded and uploaded, they go into your media folder and they're auto-organized into what we call our fixed folder structure. So you go into Cloud Devices, I find today's date, which is June 19th, go in here and I see I've got video assets, and I come in, I see I've got files for my Fujifilm camera, and I look here at what I just recorded, and here's Sean. And these markers that I just hit with the buttons, I can jump right to where my new question is. I can jump right to where the follow-up question is.
Oh.
I can go to the close-up. I can jump to the profile, which looks like I covered with my thumb there. But there you go. You can see
Oh
that
my gosh.
he's in profile. Um,
That's really cool.
and
I could see where this would really save a lot of time where if you are doing a long interview, you don't have to go back in and like rewatch it and then add those notes in manually. You could sit there and just live watch it and click those buttons and just kind of preset those comments upon upload. That's really amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is one of those things that it scales really well, right? The more that you add people to the project, let's say you're doing a marketing piece and you have, like the director, and then you have multiple different departments who are looking for different, elements in the interview. They can
Mhm.
each be capturing their impressions, and you're saving hours of review time for each one of those people to go back through because they saw what they needed on set, and you can just capture it in the press of a button. All of that getting up to Frame.io into your editor's hands, moments after you're done recording. The editors start now with all of the important context that you as the producer, the director, the creative, the stakeholders really want them to understand what you're trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
So this kind of like it's taking creative collaboration to a new level. And I couldn't be more excited about this feature. I think I'm very proud of it. So I hope it's making sense.
Absolutely. And again, I want to throw it out there to the audience. If there are any questions on this specifically, we'd love to answer those for you. I know a few popped in, so we're queuing those up for the end. So stay tuned for those questions. Now, I know we kind of got a demo, but I want to bring Dennis back out. And I want to hear about their kind of workflow and how they kind of set up real-time logging in a real environment. Obviously, we did kind of a demo just to kind of show you how it works. But yeah, hello again, Dennis. Welcome back.
Hi. So yeah, as previously said, or basically, we use hard enduro as a bit as a testing ground for new technology that we test. So we did that at the end of last year. So because you guys were super kind and helpful for providing us a demo of that, and yeah, so basically what we did first is what you guys just did, to use it in an interview situation, multi-camera interview situation, 2 to 3 cameras, sit-down interviews that were, I don't know, 30 to 45 minutes long. And we actually had someone push buttons once a question was asked, a follow-up was asked. They liked the reply. And then that was actually transmitted as a C2C proxy, including those markers, to the edit on site. So the editors on site normally wouldn't have seen that footage until end of day. And now they did through the C2C proxies. But what was also cool is they saved even more time being able to actually just jump to markers for certain questions that were asked. So yeah, no longer scrolling through, having to watch the whole thing and idle talk in between. But basically being able to jump to a marker, that's a question right there, then move on to the next question and basically figure out what you need and what you want quicker.
Yeah. So what were some of the preset comments you kind of used? Oh, this is great. These slides are perfect. Kind of give you a little visual of how you guys used it in the field. But what were some of the preset comments you have for your devices? And did you have multiple operators with their own devices, very similar to what we did in the demo? Like the DP would have one, and then the producer would have one. How did you manage all that?
So actually, we tried to keep it simple. That is actually one thing that we pay attention to. So when you introduce new technology or when you test new technology, start small, baby steps, and keep it simple so people actually understand it and are not overwhelmed by using new technology on the side to what they actually have to do there. So we just had one person marking. So that was actually just a question, a good take. And I think we actually had follow-up questions in there as well. Those were the 3 ones for the interviews. And then the pictures that you just showed, we had one camera guy that we had out in the field with the modem and the Locket Plus strapped to our equipment tech's Mark's back. And he basically walked around with that camera operator. And what we told that camera operator is, hey, if you see something cool, just push this button. So again, kept it really, really simple. And he might have gotten a little trigger happy with that button. But I guess that is the case when you have to judge your own work. And you're super happy with everything you get to shoot out there. But yeah. And then in that case as well, so C2C proxies from out in the field, from out in the action, and the editors could already jump to some markers and identify cool shots that they could use for daily highlights, stories that they were editing at that time.
Now, Derek, I have a question for you. You pulled up the little box in the demo, but in the images, we actually saw a little handle. Are there options for different types of interactive devices that you can get from Ambient?
Yeah, so that is still a prototype of a handle that Ambient is designing with the intention of being able to put it into the really rugged environment of the kind of world that Red Bull, the kind of action sports, or just really kind of any sporting environment where you are in a handheld camera configuration and you don't want, and it fits right there in your hand, right? So all those marks that you can see as a camera operator, let's say you're seeing like the flip, you're going to mark that, and you've been rolling for 20 minutes waiting for this thing to happen, and then the flip is like right at this moment. That's where you want to mark that so the editor can find that without needing to just scrub through a bunch of stuff that's not interesting. Same thing if it's like in sporting events, like it could be a goal or a touchdown or so that's something that is will be available in the future, but that was a prototype what we're showing there to just get that feedback and how it fit. What you're seeing there is the lineup between the Locket Plus, the Locket, and then the Nano Lockets. All of these are available today, and they will connect into the Frame.io project as I just showed it to you. So the nice thing about this is it's really an add-on to your camera to cloud workflow. In fact, it requires camera to cloud, right? So we're expecting that you already have at this time a you got your modem set up, you have some sort of a network connection, and then the ambient gear just fits right into that. So yeah, you throw it into a bag, you hand out your devices, and it works the same way as all other camera to cloud integrations, where it doesn't rely on network in the moment. There's always a storage that's happening on set. So even if it wanders away from network range, you can still make those marks, and when the devices come back into range, they'll all reconnect and they'll re-upload, and the whole process is totally automatic, right? So whether the marks get uploaded first or the video files come in first, it doesn't matter. We will find those timecode synced points, which is really how this is working, right? So we're looking at the mark and the file that have the same timecode, and we just staple them together as a comment in Frame. Yeah.
I love it. So I want to know, Dennis, did you guys just use this for interviews, or did you actually use it when you were capturing, event stuff? Were you able to like give these to your camera operators to select certain moments, or was it mostly just used for interviews?
Yeah, so that was mostly interviews, because especially for us, that was, I guess, the greatest benefit that we could identify at that time. But we also did the picture that you showed with one guy walking around with that modem and the Locket Plus on his backpack. That was basically our mobile connectivity solution. We actually did deploy that in the field during that race, and have someone actually log action shots with that, a camera operator in that case.
Yeah, also I can add a little bit of context there too, just maybe even some historical stuff, which is this is a product that we actually just prototyped internally. So Frame.io, in addition to doing Frame.io Live, like we have our own production team that shoots and produces all of our branded content, right? So they're our customer zero. They're our guinea pigs for things, and this is one that we developed as a prototype, and we gave it to our Prod Squad production team for a marketing video that was being done for a case study about V-Speed, which was an aerial shooting story, which if you haven't seen it is a really great case study that you can find, I'm sure, on our website. But what we found was that the feedback we got immediately from our producing and directing team on that shoot was that they saved at least 12 hours of review time and probably a whole revision cycle because of using this. And this was unprompted. We're like, hey, did this work for you? They said, yes, please give this to us on every shoot, because the first cut was more like a second cut, because the editor already had all of the information that they needed to make the decisions to get the good stuff that the directors were looking for. And including like the marketing team was even happy about that as well, because they could focus in on the things that were important for like an enterprise story, the things that were important for the retail story or a social post, right? All those little nuggets could be pulled out so quickly that that was a real light bulb moment for me personally when I heard that. It's like, okay, we're on to something. Like, let's keep digging in. Let's make this happen. Let's get it into the product, because it's just the efficiency when you lean into it is actually really tangible. There's real tangible benefits to this in terms of speed and cost and just revision times. So we like to eat our own dog food here at Frame.
Well, hopefully it's good dog food. Nobody wants bad dog food.
It's the best dog food, Sean.
I love it. So I want to throw this question to both of y'all. What are the potential other use cases for RTL, and how do you see others kind of benefiting from it? I know we talked a little bit about kind of speeding up of workflows and things like that, but I want to see where we can actually take this in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly see the nonfiction. Anytime you're dealing with something that's unpredictable, it's a shoo-in, right? So that's your sporting events. It's even your interview content. Your nonfiction, reality, all of that kind of content is when you really have a lot of stuff that you need to sort through and find those unpredictable moments, like my family walking outside. But in addition to that, I think, when you think about scripted content, there is a world in which this can add some benefit. One example that I can give right off the top of my head, I'm sorry I don't have one with me, but Ambient also makes a timecode smart slate, which in their ecosystem, when you clap it, it'll throw that mark right at the clapper automatically. So this is great, right? Because you don't have to change your behavior at all, and your second AC is marking the beginning of takes, and now your dailies operator or even your editor is finding the beginning of those takes every single take, just because they clap the sticks automatically where that starts. And I ran dailies before coming to Frame for many years. I know that would have saved me hours of time, and just would have streamlined my workflow tremendously. So I can see us getting more into narrative workflows as well in the future, and continuing to add functionality to this product.
What about you,
But
Dennis?
curious,
Any
Dennis.
thoughts of where you think the potential of this could go, especially in your org?
So yeah, I mean, I don't know if some of you guys have seen that, but we actually quite recently tested camera to cloud from a helicopter, right? So you do have long flights with helicopters, with media helicopters, where proxies to producers that have to remain on the ground would actually make sense. And then you have long shots of mountain ranges for documentary formats and all of that stuff. So if you actually would give a producer that is in the helicopter the opportunity to mark good shots for the people that have to remain on the ground, that is something I would like to see or would like to test in the future. I know that sounds a bit crazy and out there, but that's why we do this this thing, really.
No, and that's why I love to have these kind of discussions, because like it somewhere in the audience or wherever people that watch this in the future, there might be little nuggets of things they go, oh, I didn't think about that kind of use case. So it's exciting to know where the potential is, it's going to go, and what you can do now with it. I think it's the most exciting part. Well, I appreciate you both sharing your insight. I do want to jump to Q&A. So if you have questions, throw those in now, because it's time to start our Q&A. All right, so we got a couple questions in here. The first one I'm going to bring up is from, I'm going to say, Sunny. What production did the C2C help you most on so far? This, I think, is for you, Dennis.
So I guess two scenarios. Obviously, one we talked about REPL cliff diving for news workflows. So that really allowed us to even decentralize that production even more, right? So in times where we actually have to worry about sustainability of productions and green producing, with a production that is already fully remote, even as a live production, it added just another level to the possibilities that we have there. And the other is, since we haven't talked about that really, social media workflows, either through Filmic or through the Atomos camera app, being able to actually involve an editing team in the social media workflows that you have on production, whether it be a buddy team where one person is actually shooting content and just has to worry about shooting, whereas the other person can download content, edit content, and then publish on social media outlets, was also a big win and a big time saver for us.
Love it. Any additional things you want to add on there, Derek, at all, that you've experienced personally through we've internally Frame.io has a production team, and we basically trial out and use all of our own technology on these shoots. So and you shoot stuff on the outside too as well, Derek. So any insight you got on this as well?
Yeah, I mean, really, the one that's just burning in my brain right now is still the V speed shoot, because it was the most dramatic. Like, it really helped a tremendous amount to be able to, not only get the editor starting sooner, but to give them all that context. And it was days saved, really, on that project. So I really can't stress that enough. Like it's when you get it all working and you lean in and you can capture those impressions, because when you're shooting something, there are those moments that are good, and you're always trying to find them later. So both as a director and as an editor, that frustration between, like, I know we captured something, I don't know where is it, right? Or the editor, on both sides. Like as a director, the frustration of being like, I know we got something, I'm not seeing it, and the editor being told that there's something that they should be finding for them, but you don't know where it is, and you're trying to remember. It's just for the real time logging. And I know this question is C2C in general, but just the ability to really like hone in on those initial impressions. And I think it's just going to speed up that and improve that editor director, or just editor producer creative relationship, in a way that ultimately I think will help just reduce anxiety, right, and improve communication and collaboration. So that's big. And again, the evidence I saw of that was in our vSpeed production shoot that we did internally. Yeah.
Love it. All right, let's jump over to the next question. Thank you, Sonny, for the question. Let's jump over to this one. I think you answered it earlier, Derek, but for those that maybe hopped on a little late and didn't have this information, is there a way to do RTL without camera to cloud? Can that info be part of the file that you recorded?
It's a great question. That is something that we're looking at. Today, we're filtering it down to only camera to cloud uploaded assets. Um, so, but that is an understandable need if you have to upload something that's not camera to cloud. So I can tell you that the product team is looking at that. But today, yeah, the uploads need to be through a camera to cloud device. But that said, it is using timecode that's embedded in the file. So there's no major blockers there. It's just going to be something that we need to look at how to implement for users.
Got it. All right. And thank you, Franco, for the question. I got one from Dave here, and this one's for you, Dennis. We noticed when using the Atomos for camera to cloud uploads, it doesn't record proxy to high frame rate. So our editors does not get the same footage that we're recording in camera. Is there a workaround for this, or is that just is Atomos just not set up for this? And Derek, you can obviously chime in as well. But any thoughts on that, gentlemen?
I think I'm going to defer to Derek, but also yes, that is an issue. We love to work with slow-mo footage, and so far we haven't found a workaround for that yet.
Yeah, I will say that is anytime there's an outbound recorder, you're going to run into limitations of whatever can be output on the HDMI or the SDI signal. So you can get the Atomos recorders working up to 48 and I believe 60. I would have to just verify that. But I will say that that's where we tend to point people towards the in-camera integrations as an option for slow-mo. So even like the Fujifilm camera I have here can do up to 120 frames per second in slow-mo as a camera cloud. And some of the other in-camera, like the Red and the new the Lumix cameras that have joined the C2C family, they can kind of solve that problem.
Love it. All right, Dave, thank you. I know you have another question here, Dave, but I'm going to sneak one in here from Jimmy. This is actually a really great question. Dennis, you might be able to jump onto this one. But what system are you using with the FX9, FS6, FX3 to connect to camera to cloud?
So it actually kind of depends on the build of that camera, right? And actually, we try to involve our camera people into that process in kind of designing the kit and picking equipment. But let's say if we're talking about a Ninja, right, Atomos, it doesn't make sense to add another Ninja to a kit that already includes an on-camera monitor solution that the shooter likes, right? So in that case, we would probably use a cube, a serve, something like that, just not to add another screen that is really bulky and doesn't, give you any benefit, so to speak, on that kit. In terms of, let's say, an FX3, we have handheld camera, lightweight. People are running around a venue or even a racetrack with that. We will add an Atomos Ninja for that, very likely, just because it gives you another option to properly monitor your signal. So yeah, it kind of depends on the use case. It kind of depends on the build of kit that operator likes. but we have multiple options. We will take personal preference into consideration for all of that.
Love it. Jimmy, thank you for that question. And I got one more for you, Dennis, and this one's from Micah. What's the go-to workflow for efficiently getting the full res media to the editors to replace the proxies before publishing? I love this question.
Bandwidth, lots and lots of bandwidth. So if we're talking remote post-production, we usually tend to contract large data lines with ISPs that are kind of prevalent in those certain areas, just to be able to upload OCF efficiently and not having to wait a full day for something to upload. If we are talking about on-set workflows, then get a data wrangling person with you who really knows about fast ways of transferring footage from media to storage, and you'll become efficient as well. I hope I was able to answer that question.
Let us know, Micah, if you have any follow-ups on that. And then last one, I think we kind of covered this already, Dave, but I'm going to just throw it back out here just in case anyone is new in the group. And then I think we're almost at time, but yeah, Dave. So Dennis, I know you mentioned earlier that you use your proxies for uploads, but for social media, but if we want to just reiterate for Dave here real quick.
Sure. Depending on the actual product that we're producing, so that is like in this case, for news, yes, definitely, because time is of the essence, and we kind of want to release very, very close to the end of the event. And then social media, also, if we can, or if kind of the quality expectation allows, we will use those proxies on our outlets. Yes.
All right. Love it. Dave, thank you once again. Let me hide that one. And we got one from Matt, and this one actually might work for both you, Dennis and Derek, but I want to throw this up there, is how does the C2C process affect things like HDR workflows and shooting flat in camera? Does the C2C device apply LUTs? Are they 10-bit? Are they 8-bit? The other way around, 8-bit, 10-bit. But yeah, either one of you all, I'd love to hear from you on this.
Big ol' it depends on that one. Yeah, so the camera to cloud technology here doesn't dictate the video file quality. So that really depends on what the encoding device is. In the case of like a Fujifilm camera, we can do not only proxies, but you can also upload OCF files. So a proxy would be like an 8-bit H.264. You can bake in your LUT, but then you can also do like a 10-bit ProRes 422, and you can record that log and upload that as well. So with the Atomos line, you can bake in LUTs. Then you can I think all those proxies are going to be 8-bit right now. I'd have to double check my actual notes on that one, but yeah. So it really depends a lot on what the encoders are able to do. And I don't know, Dennis, which your codecs are that you lean into most for your workflows.
I mean, very, very depending on the production series. Obviously, we do use a lot of Sony equipment, so that's going to be XAVC most of the time. But yeah, I think regarding the question about C2C and HDR workflows, I don't actually have anything to add to that.
I will say I did actually do a production recently where we were shooting flat in camera and just pushed those through, and we applied the LUT in Premiere from a GFX camera, and it worked great, right? So we did camera to cloud fully flat with the 8-bit proxies, and applying a LUT was fine. And the plan there is to do a full upres into a 10-bit ProRes because the camera did dual recording. So that's a very viable workflow for sure. And I definitely would recommend shooting flat and using LUTs in post.
Well, beautiful. Again, we are pretty much close to time here, but I do want to take a moment and thank our guests, Dennis and Derek. Thank you so much for hopping on, sharing your workflows, sharing your insight on everything from Frame.io to Camera Cloud to how you do things at Red Bull Media House. Thank you once again, both of you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you for
It's great being here.
Yeah, love it. So be sure to check your emails for new users. We are offering a 30-day trial code for Frame.io. So just for joining this session. But if you want to learn more about Frame.io, head to Frame.io page, Frame.io/live to sign up more sessions. We do update those regularly, so make sure you do check back. You can always head to Frame.io to learn more about Frame.io itself. But you can also follow us on Instagram, Frame_IO. And as well as our blog.frame.io. Once again, I appreciate all of you staying on, asking your questions, and telling us where you're from. Have a great rest of your day. I was going to say, have a Red Bull. Why not? Make sure that you check us out on other sessions. But thank you again for joining us on Frame.io Live. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you later.